Hi, for this video I thought we'd take a look at a screen door roller that's very common in Canadian high-rise condominiums. These corners here, this one has the adjustment screw missing, are used in a kind of a special screen door. Normally these the width across here for most screen doors is an inch and an eighth. This is much smaller. This is less than an inch, and the frame that this fits into is quite narrow. It's very thick extruded aluminum built in the 1970s, but it's only less than an inch cavity that this fits into. They've also got these PVC or vinyl plastic carriers which hold the rollers, and they have these little springs here which always fall out when you're trying to put them back together. But for the most part these things work not too bad. But what usually ends up happening is the little, you'll see how I can bend this when it's brand new. This gets very, very brittle when it's old, and of course these edges here just snap right off and the wheels just fall off. Plus the little axles inside there, they get worn down to nothing, and that also causes the wheels to fall off. And to make it even worse, the only way that you can replace these things, you have to pull the whole frame apart, because you have to pull out this whole assembly through the end here. But you can't do it unless the whole screen door has been taken, frame has been taken apart. So the way you get these things installed here is to put the housing without the roller in the corner, and you have to push the whole thing inside the end of the screen, the bottom rail and the top rail of the screen door, and then you have to push down this spring, hopefully not punching a hole in your thumb while you're doing it, and force the whole thing into the end of the screen door like that. And as you push it along, what's going to happen is that little plastic housing is going to pop out when it gets into the mortise here where the roller goes, and that gives you enough room to open it up inside to put the roller on. Now the roller that this comes with is these 1-inch diameter vinyl wheels. One very, very common problem with the new ones, and this is exactly the problem that this one has, is that the groove is so narrow that when you put the door back in, it actually grips on the bottom track, and you can't slide the door back and forth, because the old rollers that they made with these doors used to be a lot wider. And the way I get around that problem is to use these ball bearing rollers, and these are much wider, have a much wider groove. So for one thing, they don't grip on the bottom track, and because they're ball bearing rollers, they're going to glide along just perfectly. So they actually make the doors work better than they did when they were new. And the way you put the rollers in, basically you just have to pull this housing up enough to get the roller between those two little axles, and then you have to push these two pieces together so that it goes into the hole on either side of the roller. And normally I just use a wrench for that. I'll just grab it on both sides and push the sides in so that the roller will go in. Now I mentioned that these things didn't have any adjusting screws in them, and I've noticed when I've been buying these lately, they don't come with the screws anymore. You have to actually, I have to actually make my own. And so what the screw looks like, this is a different kind of corner, but it has the screw in it. You can see the adjusting screw here, and it's just a long 3-inch number 8 sheet metal screw with the end ground flat. And the reason the end has to be ground flat is because it has to push on the end here, and that's what makes it pivot. So that gives you the adjustment in the height of the door. But so usually what I do is I get some sheet metal screws, and I'll just grind the ends off so that they're nice and flat. Because if you don't, what'll happen is it'll end up screwing into the end of this, and instead of adjusting it up and down, it'll just lock it in place in the up position, which is not what you want. But that's just another frustration with these rollers, as if it needed any more. So if you have a screen door that uses this type of roller and corner assembly, I like to call them the number 448. That's the one I've always ordered by over the years, but they've got all kinds of other different part numbers depending on who you buy them from. But if you need some, just give me a shout, and we'll get your door working again, and I'll help you with any with all the getting everything together, because as you've seen, these things are not quite straightforward when it comes to putting everything together.